When three-time Super Bowl champion Ted Johnson was the linebacker for the Patriots, he gave and took more than his fair share of hits, including two that resulted in particularly bad concussions in August 2002, when Johnson says Coach Bill Belichick told him to keep playing. That's why in 2007, 2 years after he retired because of his brain injuries, Johnson spoke out publicly against the league via the New York Times, saying, quote, "There's something wrong with my brain, and I know when it started." And he's been sounding the alarm ever since with relentless advocacy on behalf of people with brain injuries from the sports world and beyond.
A lot of us are suffering in silence. We're in this thing together.
Right now, he's pushing for two different bills at the State House, one called the No Hits Act, which would ban kids from playing tackle football before 8th grade, another which would require insurance companies to cover rehab treatments for people who suffer brain injuries. Ted Johnson joins me now. Ted, it's great to see you again.
Good
Thanks
to see you, Jim.
Let's talk first about the one that would treatment. What exactly is not covered by commercial insurers that you want covered by this bill?
It's the long-term cognitive rehabilitation. What that happens right now is a lot of people, if they have a stroke or they get in a car accident or whatever it was, and it means that they got a head injury, they're treated for the acute symptoms. But we know now more than we ever have known that symptoms linger. They can go months and years at a time, and that people need long-term care for the brain injuries, not just the acute care.
And the long-term care is not just out of kindness. That's what often will allow somebody to return to normal life or close to normal life, without which it's not going to happen. Is that not right?
That's correct. And a lot of people this is still kind of a new thing. This is new territory. A lot of people don't understand it, but the data and the science, the research validates that this is an issue with brain trauma that can last long term. And some of the signs and some of the symptoms don't come until months or years after the original accident. So it's a very real thing. It's a very real problem, and a lot of people in the Commonwealth need help.
Am I entitled to one stupid question in this
By all
interview?
means,
Or at least
Jim.
one now?
You got it, buddy.
Does anybody oppose this?
Not that I've come in contact with. Not that I've come in contact with.
I mean, by the way, the cost is often the issue, and there's something called the Center for Health Information and Analysis, which is beyond reproach, did an estimate. This would raise the average insurance premium for somebody who has commercial insurance from 1 cent to 19 cents a month. I mean, it's nothing,
right,
essentially, and it provides a needed service. So are you optimistic about this, or is this...
I'm pretty optimistic about it. I mean, we're in the very early stages of this thing, so we've still got a long way to go. But I haven't heard a lot of opposition with this. I think a lot of it is just it's the invisible injury. A lot of people don't know much about it.
And we should be clear, this won't benefit. You have coverage for this kind of. This is not about you.
Playing in the NFL for 10 years like I did, and all the spotlight that's been brought on this issue, I have benefits, I have resources, I have things that I can do if I need help that's available for guys like me.
So why are you spending your life doing I'm serious about this. This is not a one and done with you.
Right.
I know how hard you work on these issues. What's that about?
You know, Jim, somebody needs to talk, and a lot of people, there's a lot of shame around it, and there's a lot of embarrassment, and a lot of people won't talk out about it. And so I'll say something. And so I'll talk about my personal issues, the struggles that I've had with addiction, and then all the symptoms that come along with it. And a lot of people won't, but I'm willing to talk about
Why
it.
aren't
to help
you
people.
embarrassed about it? I mean, the conventional wisdom is the tougher the guy.
Right.
And I used to watch you, like everybody watching tonight, they don't come tougher than you. The tougher the guy, there's like an inverse proportion. Tough, unwillingness to talk about personal, maybe a physical injury, yes, but not an injury in the head. Why are you one of the exceptions to the rule?
You know, because I think someone's got to. I mean, there's a lot of guys, big name, iconic kind of quarterbacks that in the early 90s, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, that were known for getting concussed, multiple concussions. You heard that in their personal lives they've had issues, but they're not willing to talk out about it. People need to know. Guys, people need to make informed decisions. The football players I played with and just regular people need to know what the long-term effects are.
So let's talk about that other bill, this prevention thing. This bill, I think it's called the No Hits Act, would not allow tackle football until 8th grade. And I want to quote from a study that was done by some friends of yours at BU's CTE Center, concluding that those who participated in organized tackle football before the age of 12 were twice as likely to experience problems with behavioral regulation, apathy, problem-solving, task execution. They were 3 times as likely to be diagnosed with depression later in life. This is another one of these things. Is it the parents who hope their kids are going to be a Ted Johnson? Who opposes this thing?
It's I think it's that, and I think it's people saying, government shouldn't be telling me what we need to do. And I think I feel, strong about this. I didn't play till I was in high school. I played 10 years.
You didn't play till you were in high
correct.
school?
I didn't play till I was in high school. Your body develops later. The brain develops later. People that oppose this, I think it's just part of it is they don't want government telling them what to do. And also, people love football, and they don't want their football going away. I think a lot of people think this is maybe one of those beginning of dominoes that could fall. That could all of a sudden, the game they love so much is not going to be there in 20 years, which is crazy.
Can we do a little quiz here?
Yeah,
sure, why not? What did Tom Brady, Jim Brown, Peyton and Taylor, Lawrence Taylor, Walter Payton, Lawrence Taylor, and Ted Johnson have in common? Do you know what it is?
No clue.
Not one of them played football until high school. I would argue 4 of the 5 are the greatest people who ever played the sport. So isn't that the answer to the father or mother who is living through their kid, is that you protect the kid's brain and you don't deny any opportunity for your kid, because look at you, look at et cetera.
Totally agree. I think the biggest argument that you hear when it comes to this, Jim, is, well, we need to teach them how to form tackle early on. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. You can learn to tackle later in life. Your body needs to develop. And you can learn the game of football playing flag football before you need to even put the pads on and hit. So,
how are you?
I'm good, bud.
I mean, are you really? I mean, I've read about all the crap you've had to deal with for a long time.
I'm doing good. I'm on a good track right now. I live a very diligent life. I take care of myself. I sleep. I work out every day. Any kind of symptoms I have, I treat those symptoms with med protocol. If I need therapy, I do that. So I live a very diligent life, Jim, and I take really good care of myself, and that seems to be kind of the secret for my success.
Not having to deal with depression or any of that stuff that you've had to deal with?
As long as I take care of myself and do all the things I need to do, then I keep that at bay.
You know, on one hand, talk about people at the top of their game. I remember a press conference maybe 5 years ago when LeBron James' sons were young. There's actually a story about it. One of his sons, LeBron Jr., in the New York Times about it. He's an up-and-coming young star now. I think he's 14. And he said, my kids are not going to play football. They're not going to play football. And when they're in high school, their mother and I will sit down with them and have a discussion about whether or not it's appropriate. On the other end of the spectrum is arguably the biggest name in football ever, Tom Brady, who I once heard say, if my kids want to play, it's great. He made a comment that I know troubled you about saying that his brain is wired for contact. How do you respond to, how do you react to moments like that from people who are pretty smart characters?
Yeah, it bums me out because not every player's NFL experience is the same. Tom plays, with all due respect, a position where he has 5 guys that are paid millions of dollars to protect him from getting hit. Practices, you don't touch the quarterback. So each position is not created equal, all right? And so I think a lot of it comes down to it's guys that if you've walked a mile in my middle linebacker shoes or strong safety shoes or offensive lineman shoes, you might think about this otherwise.
But it's not. But with all due respect, it's not just the protect. Jim McMahon was protected for the Chicago Bears.
That's true.
He's in pretty. I mean, we know what he's suffered through.
Yep.
And have you spoken to Brady since you criticized him for this?
I haven't had talked to Tom. I'd welcome it. I'd be open to it. I'd love to talk to him, and so he can hear my perspective. But I was a little bummed about those comments, just talking about his brain being wired for contact. That's just an irresponsible comment to make.
Do you not think he knows better? I mean, I know he's infatuated with this, obviously, TB12 and Alec Guerrero, who's sort of his, I don't even know what to describe, his Rasputin. I don't know what it is. But essentially, he knows better, doesn't he?
You would think. Tom's a bright guy. You would think. A lot of people think that maybe it's to help, promote his brand, his TB12 brand. And if that's the case, it's a little bit unfortunate because you don't need to do that to. Your brand is already doing good, Tom. You don't need to make those kind of comments to kind of accentuate it.
Do you regret that you played football?
No, not at all. I regret decisions I made while I was playing and not being a stronger advocate for myself and not knowing certain situations that I was presented. Making decisions that I did not know could prevent or could maybe threaten long-term, health for me. But I didn't know any better then. I know now. But if I had to go back and do it all again, I would do it. I would just make different decisions.
So what do you say to the young athlete who worries about what I know you worried about at the time, which is if you show vulnerability, if you show you got a problem, maybe that contract's going to be over. Maybe the scholarship's going to be withdrawn. Maybe I won't get a chance. What do you say to that?
I don't have an answer for that kid. That's the God honest truth. You play and you try and whatever. If you get concussed, you get head trauma, report it, take care of it, treat it. But the inherent nature of football is a violent, dangerous game. I don't care what rules, anything they do to try and prevent it from being less dangerous, it just is an inherently dangerous game. So I don't have a good answer for you if somebody was to ask me that, Jim.
I hope you're as good a lobbyist as you were a football player. Let's hope. Those bills matter a lot.
Thank you, Jim. I
Ted
appreciate
Johnson,
it.
it's great to see you.
Good to
Thanks
see
so
you.
much for your advocacy. Appreciate it.